Welcome to Titan Upload Tuesday Night Lights. Couple things before we get Brian. He's here. He's ready to go. I cannot wait for his mock draft. I have a surprise for his picks. I think we're going to be surprised with some of his picks, and we'll have to see what happens. But what I wanted to tell you right away here is the one thing real quick. If you're an NFL fan, you're here for the mock draft, I salute you. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, do your thing, share it. And don't forget to subscribe to Brian. We'll get his information for you here shortly. But the news broke today that Gronk is back and he's in Tampa Bay with Brady. And all you Titan fans who didn't want Brady, you didn't want him. You did not want him. Now you miss out on Gronk as well. So we'll definitely get some of those feedbacks. Do not forget, Thursday is a huge show on NGB Talk. We'll be on there to break down the live coverage of the draft. Just want to come out and hang out with a couple Titan fans. We're super stoked about that. We'll be here 6:30 on NGB's channel. And then Friday night, we will be here whenever, half hour before it starts. And super pumped. The Tennessee Titans, are they going to make some moves? You guys being with NFL, trying to do a little crossover here on Tuesday nights. If you guys are chiming in, you got all your teams you're excited about, Raiders, Packers, Eagles, Falcons, Cowboys, you name it. We're talking about them. We're talking about the entire mock draft right now. And Brian is bringing it. He's got his list. He's ready to go. He's been doing a lot of things on his channel, so definitely check him out. He actually went live, I think it was yesterday or the day before. So definitely he's going live. He's trying to share as much information with you as possible. And guys, we've had him on here before, and he has not led us down a road that does not make sense. These guys that he has mentioned, I remember the Montez, Colorado quarterback, some dude I don't even remember from Florida International. He brought them up as possible Titan candidates. And guess what? The Tennessee Titans over the last couple days supposedly have talked about these two in particular. So like I said, this guy knows his stuff, knows all about the draft, breaks it down consistently, NFL Draft Geek, and he is with us to share his stuff. So here's how it's going to work. We're going to bring him on. We'll play his intro. Don't forget to hit that like button. We always want to try to get 50 likes. Hope you like the green background. We're trying something different here. I remember when we had Luke from A to Z Sports on the other night, the mic was a little bit hot. I do apologize for that. So hopefully it sounds better. If it doesn't, make sure you definitely leave something, because for whatever reason with this setup, this mic, it just sometimes has a mind of its own. So I do apologize. So like I said, we'll bring Brian on. But what I wanted to tell you is we are not going to go to comments right away. So we want to get through his mock draft. If, something happens where he picks somebody and you're excited about, you're not excited about, sure, leave a comment. We'll definitely go back and check them out. And then towards the tail end of this thing, we are going to allow you to ask your questions for Brian. And then he can, answer them the best he can. And like I said, buckle up, because this is going to go fast. We're moving through it, and we're super pumped to have it. So here we go. Let's get this intro going, and let's bring Brian in. So here we go. So there he is, the man of the hour, Mr. Mock Draft himself. Brian, how is it going today?
It's going okay. I'm a little anxious. I always get anxious right before the draft, just because I'm a competitive person, so I want my mock draft to be as accurate as can be. So I always get a little anxious leading into it, but then it's just all fun from there on out.
I don't know, man. I was thinking about a mock draft, but I just got home from work like literally an hour ago, and I've been kind of like gone all day long, and today's been one of those hectic days. But I'm thinking about, hey, could I do a mock draft? And then as soon as I get past the first two picks, I'm like, nah, I can't, because guess what, Brian? I only care about pick 29, so it's very, very hard. But because this show is more NFL based, we got to talk about all the teams. So real quick, just for us at home, Jaguars, like, who has multi-picks before we get into this? So Jaguars multi-picks, Raiders multi-picks, anybody else I'm missing?
Dolphins have 3. So you've got 3 teams with multiple picks in the first round. Obviously, the Dolphins with 3 of them.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Titans right now only have 1, but I'm thinking we may trade back. Now, are we going to have trades in this mock draft?
Yes, I do have two trades.
Okay.
So there'll be more of that in the actual one, but that's what I went with here.
All right, so I'm going to try to multitask here. So I'm going to try to keep the screen up to date on the bottom. And I'm also going to try to do these flash intros. So this is kind of crazy on my end. What I need you at home, can you see the box on the screen or you just see me and Brian? Because I've never done this before. Can you see the screen or can you just see like me and Brian? Can anyone comment real quick? Because I don't want to do this the whole thing and just terrorize this video. Do you see anything different? Is there a box on the screen like that has files or no? Anybody comment before we get this?
I got my phone up.
Okay, what do you think? Does it look okay?
I see the pics scrolling at the bottom.
Okay, but you don't see like anything covering our face, do you?
No.
Awesome. All right, it's gonna work. It's really gonna work. Let's go. I'm like super pumped about this. All right, let me go because I have a feeling who your number 1 is. I'm sorry. Did you say you're gonna have trades in these or no?
I've got 2 trades.
Okay, so we do have some trades. That's always makes mock drafts fun, I think. So I put these in alphabetical order, and there it is. So I have a good feeling who number 1 is. So this should work. Let's see. So here we go, man.
All right. Are you going to announce the team, or do you just want me to go all in?
Well, the Bengals are number 1. I don't have my list in front of me, unfortunately. So okay. Do you have your list?
All right. Yes, I got it right here.
Perfect. All right, here we go. Who are the Bengals taking number 1?
Actually, I got a trade. No, I'm just kidding. Cincinnati Bengals, number 1, Joe Burrow. It's chalk at this point. Joe Burrow is proven himself this year to be worthy of the number one overall pick. The Bengals need a quarterback. He's kind, he went to high school initially in college in Ohio. It's just it's a perfect storm, and it's going to be Burrow. And it's the least talked about number 1 pick in a long time.
Wow. So there's no chance for a trade here.
No chance.
No chance. All right. So Burrow's number 1, and this is going to not be easy for me to do. I don't even think it's going to let me. Let's see. Yeah, I am going to need like 5 people working on the show here at some point. All right, I think I updated it, so we're good. All right, number 2. Who do we got for number 2?
Washington Redskins taking Chase Young, the defensive end out of Ohio State. Much like Joe Burrow going number 1, it's locked in that the Redskins are going to be taking Chase Young. They need to get they don't need a defensive end, but Ron Rivera is your head coach. He's a defensive-minded head coach. You got Jack Del Rio as your defensive coordinator. Both of those guys believe in a system where you get your pass rush out of the front 4. You combine Chase Young with Montez Sweat, who they drafted in the first round last year, Jonathan Allen, who they drafted in the first round a couple years back, Daron Payne, who they drafted in the first round a couple years back, and you are set with your defensive line, arguably one of the best young defensive lines in the NFL. And we saw what happened with the San Francisco 49ers last year. They beefed up their defensive line, and it hid a lot of deficiencies that they had in that secondary. So the Redskins are hoping that, hey, if we get a dominant defensive line, it doesn't matter if we have not the greatest cornerbacks in the world.
Yeah, so there's no chance they're going to – because I have heard some talks about them possibly because of – the Redskins, they have a new coach, like you said, Ron Rivera, so no chance Chase Young is going to be our number 2 pick. So 1 and 2, 100% across the board.
I think they kind of, floated out there to see what people would get, but I think with the situation that's going around with the quarterbacks, I don't think anyone's going to want to fly up and invest a ton of picks to move up. So I think they're going to be happily sitting there picking the best player in this draft.
All righty. I think I have an idea for your 3. Are you going cornerback here?
Yes. Detroit Lions. I think internally they're deciding, do we go with Derek Brown, the defensive tackle out of Auburn? Word out is that the coaches, some of the defensive coaches really want Derek Brown. But I think they're going to go Jeffrey Okudah, the cornerback out of Ohio State. They traded away Darius Slay. He was having issues with Matt Patricia. They wanted to move him. They need another corner to pair with Trufant and give him two top guys. And so Okudah is the guy there. I think they'd love to trade down to 5 or 6 because they'd still probably get either Derek Brown or Jeffrey Okudah. But I don't think there's like I said, a big market to trade up. So I think they're just going to sit tight, take the guy that they want, and move on.
So, like, any quarterback at this point, really, like, we heard Tua. I've even heard reports of Herbert back in, like, a couple weeks ago, possibly even being your number 3 or second quarterback taken. There's really no chance of somebody, because I know the Lions have floated it around.
I mean, the thing is I don't think it's going to take a lot to get the Lions aren't going to be asking for the farm to move down. You know, if I have a feeling that if you say, hey, we'll give you our 3rd round pick to move from 5 to 3, they'd be like, sure. But I think both the Dolphins and the Chargers are content waiting. I think the Chargers may not even take a quarterback. And so the Dolphins just say, hey, we like Herbert, we like Tua, whichever one falls to us, we'll take them. And I think the Chargers are the same way.
All righty. So we got, so far in our mock draft, no surprises. Although I might be a little surprised because I think possibly you would see these quarterbacks always at some way. I remember the Bears when they traded up for Trubisky, the poor Bears. They missed out on so much. But I think when you look at it, the top 3, it could go in order. I think us Titan fans want quarterbacks, maybe even tackles to start going off the board. Maybe that pushes back some corners. But we're going to stay with Brian. So here we go. Number 4, who we got?
I have the New York Giants taking Tristan Wirfs, the offensive tackle out of Iowa. Here's another team that you've just heard so many rumors. It's, you know, there's rumors that they really like Isaiah Simmons, and there's discussion that they're trying to have conversations of where do we best fit Isaiah Simmons. And you look at Gettleman, he drafted Luke Kuechly in the top 10. He drafted Shaq Thompson, who was a converted safety to linebacker. He paid Thomas Davis big money, who was a converted safety to linebacker. So Gettleman's shown that he has drafted linebackers, but the Giants are an organization that hasn't drafted a linebacker since the 1980s with Carl Banks. So it's hard for me to say, oh, yeah, they're going to take Isaiah Simmons and feel very confident in that. Gettleman, though, tends to tip his picks. In his whole draft season, he's mentioned running. You know, we need to run the football. We need to protect our quarterback, and their offensive line is not very good, especially at the tackle position. Wirfs is a guy that fits the type of mold that Gettleman likes. They have Nate Solder at the left tackle spot, so they could put, you know, even though he hasn't been playing well, they could put Wirfs in at the right side, and then if Solder doesn't work out and they get rid of him after a year, Wirfs does have experience on that left side, and maybe they move him there, or as we see in the NFL today, there's no difference between left and right tackle anymore. Yeah. So you just, hey, if you got a good right tackle, you got a good tackle, you just leave him there and you worry about that position the next time.
Yeah, you got a young quarterback. You got to obviously protect Jones. And like when I was listening to your live show, I didn't get it live, but I got it afterwards. You made that point about the Giants, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know that. So guys are missing a lot if you're not checking out Brian over there on his channel. All right, here we go.
Oh, real quick. Not
sure.
to interrupt. Quick.
Yeah. Go for it.
Don't be surprised if the New York Giants take Derek Brown. And it seems crazy because they drafted Dexter Lawrence last year at 17. They traded a 3rd-round pick for Leonard Floyd. But the word is, once again, they like Derek Brown. He said, hey, you can never have too many good players at one position. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But don't rule it out.
All righty. You heard it first here. All right, number 5, right? Are we on 5? I think we are. Here we go. It's moving fast.
Miami Dolphins. I have them sitting tight, and I have them taking Justin Herbert, the quarterback out of Oregon. I have Tua as my second-rated quarterback. I actually have him tied with Joe Burrow grade-wise. But we're, you know, with the situation, the coronavirus and the social distancing and stay-at-home orders, teams can't go see Tua. They can't work him out. They can't see him live, and I think that's going to cause him to fall. And the Miami Dolphins have, before last year's draft, I had read that they were going to punt on quarterback last year, which they did, and they were I have in their eyes on Justin Herbert and Tua Tagovailoa, which fitting right now that we're going. But I think the concerns about Tua, and I've seen some people in the media, some experts say, oh, it's, that's just, it's a non-issue. Injuries happen. You're investing a top 5 pick in a quarterback that's had ankle surgery on both ankles. He's had wrist surgery, and he has a dislocated hip. Plus, he's only 6 foot and 200 pounds. And yeah, he can move within the pocket, but he's not Kyler Murray out there. So a guy that's, not overly elusive in the pocket, smaller guy, their teams are going to be concerned about his being fragile. And I almost made up a word there. So I think they go with Herbert. I like Herbert. I think he gets a lot of unfair criticisms because he didn't put up these huge numbers, but his offense didn't need it. He didn't have to go out there and put the team on his back. I think they like him. I think that's the way that they're going to go. He's probably one of the safer picks in this draft, and I think that's the route they go.
Is it unfair for us to look at Herbert and then see like Marcus Mariota didn't really pan out, so then we kind of look at Herbert and we're like, is that kind of unfair for us to do as just fans in general?
Yes. Yeah, and you're getting a lot of the same talk with Mariota. When he was coming out, it was, oh, he's just too nice. He can't be a good leader. He's just too nice. He's too soft-spoken. And you're seeing the exact same things with Justin Herbert because he's more of a laid-back, relaxed guy. But if you read between the lines and you meet with, I've read that teams that have interviewed him, teams that have interviewed his teammates, they just love the guy. And they say he's a good leader. When he was at the Senior Bowl, he dominated the Senior Bowl. And Jordan Love was there, and I know Jordan Love's getting all this praise. Justin Herbert was the best quarterback at the Senior Bowl. And there's reports out there that players gravitated towards him. So yeah. I think that's people not really liking him because, oh, hey, he had a bad game against Arizona State. Hey, he threw a Hail Mary pass 20 yards into the end zone against Auburn. We don't like him, so these are the things that we're going to fixate on.
All righty. You heard it here first there with, man, every time I see him, I think of Mariota, and I know it's kind of unfair. All right. Number 6. Is it number 6?
Number 6 is, yes, Los Angeles Chargers. This is a tough one because this is a spot for a quarterback, but you're hearing all this talk of Anthony Lynn saying, I like Tyrod Taylor. He's not a bridge quarterback. We can win with him. And you think, hey, they've got a really good defense. They just need to patch a few holes, and maybe they're a team that goes to the playoffs. And so there's a lot of talk that they could take an offensive tackle here and then maybe try to trade back into the first round to get maybe a Jordan Love. I've heard reports that they really like Jalen Hurts, and he could possibly be a second-round pick. But when it's all said and done, number 6, Los Angeles Chargers, I have them taking Tua Tagovailoa. I think I read it somewhere today, and I can't remember, so I'm not going to guess on who said it. But they talked about how this upcoming season, we don't even know if it's going to start on time. We don't even know if it's going to happen. Why not take Tua? You've got the marketing ploy. You got the marketing there. I mean, you put Tua on a billboard in Los Angeles, and it's going to sell. I mean, it's going to help you out. And so if the season is whatever, you still have Tyrod Taylor. You can sit and let Tua continue to get healthier, continue to maybe fix some. He doesn't have a whole lot of flaws, but he's got some issues. You let his body rest, and then he's able to come in, and maybe you look at him as a guy that maybe redshirts this first year, and he comes in and this is a pick for 2021, not 2020.
Yeah, I just don't see the Chargers making a big run, so that would make a lot of sense this year. You know what I mean? The defense has got some studs on it. The offense, with the whole new quarterback scheme, it's going to take time. And let's just be honest, the Chiefs, they're not losing that division. So this might be a mulligan for the Chargers, new stadium. This for fans going to be whatever. But yeah, that's a good pick. I like it.
Well, and think about this too. They're a team that probably thinks, hey, we've got this strong defense. We were in the playoffs a couple years ago. We might not be – they probably don't think they're going to be picking in the top 10 anytime soon. So maybe they say, hey, we cannot take the chance of passing up a quarterback here because if we do pass him up and we get offensive line, sure, we might get into the playoffs then. But we're now saying, okay, who's our next quarterback? And then you're trying to pick from the 20s to get your next franchise quarterback, and that doesn't always work out very well.
Yeah. Lord Zeno says, Titan Upload, do you think we should trade for Chase Young? Any possible chance of what would it take? Let's just be honest. What would it take just for fun as we're kind of basically making our way through here? We're at 20 likes. We're always trying to get to 50 likes. So if you're hanging out and you haven't hit that like button yet, make sure you do that. But if you're the Titans, we're going to trade up. Let's just say into the top 5. Let's say maybe Young falls a couple. I mean, what would it honestly take, do you think, for someone in the back end to move up? And have we seen this? I think the Saints maybe moved up to like 14 or 12 a couple years ago. Is that possible, or this just 1% chance?
I mean, we had the Texans trade up to, I think, 10 a couple years back to get Watson, and they were in the 20s. I think for the Titans to move up in the top 5, you're going to lose this year's first. You're going to swap first round picks. You're probably going to lose your next 2 years of first round picks, and probably a third or two. So you're mortgaging a lot your future. And Bears fans have seen that when they traded for Khalil Mack. They traded away 2 first-round picks. The Bears also saw it when they traded for Jay Cutler. They traded away 2 first-round picks and I think a couple third-round picks. So, that's quite a big jump. Even moving from like 15 to like the top 5.
Yeah.
That's a lot of picks.
Yeah, I don't see it possibly happening. I don't see us trading up, to be honest with you. But man, if he's the real deal, it's not easy to get pass rushers. But then again, Clowney's not your typical pass rusher, but he's still kind of sitting there. I mean, he could help out a lot of teams. So maybe people are just trying to be more wise with their money nowadays. I don't know. All right, so we're moving along. We are on pick 7, correct?
All right.
Just pick the Chargers, and now we got the mighty Panthers.
Carolina Panthers. This is a tough team. This is one of the toughest teams I've had to gauge. From me getting from 1 to 6 is been fairly easy-ish. But the Panthers are hard because you just don't really know what they're going to do. And I could see Derek Brown being a good fit here just because it seems like everyone loves Derek Brown. He's given them some tough physicality to their defensive line that they don't have. I think they'd like to take cornerback. So is C.J. Henderson up in play here? Could they go? I wouldn't shock me if they went offensive line. But I think I have them in this situation going Isaiah Simmons, the linebacker out of Clemson. Matt Rule on his defense with Phil Snow, their defensive coordinator, they value length, they value athleticism, and Simmons is a guy that has that. He has that length, 6'4", 220 pounds. He's fast. He can fly around. I think he'd be a good fit in Carolina. Now I have him listed as a linebacker, but I don't think he's going to be a 3-down linebacker. I think he's a guy in your base defense. You're going to play at kind of like a box safety, and he can do that. That's what Clemson used him as. And then on nickel and sub packages, which, I mean, you spend over half your time in anyway, he's going to be your nickel linebacker. You can blitz him off the edge. I think he'd just give him some versatility. They moved on from Eric Reed, who was one of their starting safeties last year. So they do have that need at safety. Plus, once again, they have linebacker needs once Luke Kuechly retired. So you kind of have a combination of him and Shaq Thompson, him at safety. And I think he would be a kind of a good fit and a versatile piece in their defense.
Yeah. All right. Let's move along here. Number 8.
Number 8 is the Arizona Cardinals, and it's very easy to mock an offensive tackle here, just because there's 4 elite guys in this class. We've only had one of them go. Arizona had to play a right guard, Justin Pugh, at right tackle last year, and it did not work out very well. And so the offensive tackle is a big need. You want to protect Kyler Murray, give him time to throw to DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald and Christian Kirk. But I just have this gut feeling that they're going to go defense. And I think Isaiah Simmons, if he was available here, Steve Keim, when he was the director of player personnel with the Cardinals before he became GM, they had a chance to draft Adrian Peterson. And the reports were he was pounding the table, let's draft Adrian Peterson. And they passed on him for Levi Brown, who was a need, and that didn't work out very well. Now he's the general manager, and he's talking. Last year they had Josh Rosen. They traded up to the 10th overall pick to take Josh Rosen, and then they had the number 1 pick, and they said, "Hey, he's not going to be our franchise quarterback. Let's just go quarterback again." And they took Kyler Murray. So he's a guy that wants those impact players. Now Isaiah Simmons is gone, but Derek Brown is available. They could use some bulk and power in the interior. I have a gut feeling this is going to be defense. But right tackle, gosh, seems like a big need.
So let's see. Moving on here. Who's next? Sorry.
We're moving on to 9.
Yep.
I actually have my first trade.
Here we go. Trade alert. Trade alert.
This was Jacksonville, but I have the Denver Broncos moving up from 15 to 9. The Jaguars are a team that another one of those gut feelings just riding on the wall. I see them kind of tanking for Trevor Lawrence. The roster got gutted trading away Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell, and they're probably going to trade Yannick Ngakoue away too. So I think they're looking to expand their picks, and they want to get as many picks as possible. I think they feel comfortable moving down a little bit in the draft. So I think they move down. The Broncos move up, and I think the Broncos take Alabama wide receiver Jerry Jeudy. John Elway knows he feels comfortable with Drew Lock. Drew Lock showed a lot at the end of last year. You've got Cortland Sutton, who's developing into an elite number 1 receiver, and you need to add weapons. And Jerry Jeudy, I think, would be a very good complement to Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton's your bigger, physical. He's not Julio Jones, but he's that contested catcher, physical type receiver. Whereas Jerry Jeudy is speed, explosion, polished route runner. So you pair those two, you get the explosive receiver with the physical receiver, and it gives them just a nice 1-2 punch. I think they're a team to kind of really watch to trade up, and it could either be Jerry Jeudy, but I could also see them move up and get a potential Andrew Thomas, who the Georgia left tackle. I could see him get Mekhi Becton because Garrett Bowles has not been a good pick for them. He was the 20th overall pick a few years back. He has penalty problems, issues. I can see them moving up to get offensive tackle, but I think Jerry Jeudy, they want to give Drew Lock a lot of weapons.
Yeah. Wow. And what do you think about? Do you think he is what would I say? Like, definitely be one of those game changer type receivers? Is he going to be like a Julio Jones or some of these other guys coming out of Bama, maybe Cooper?
The player, yeah, he's got a lot of Amari Cooper type comparisons because he's not he's not 6'3" power, like a power forward playing wide receiver. The guy that I've compared him a lot to is Odell Beckham Jr. Not like, hey, he's going to be the next Odell Beckham Jr., but he reminds me of that 6'1" receiver who's explosive, who's a good route runner, but that can also go up and win some contested catchers. He's not a guy that you have to kind of run underneath the ball. He will high point it. And I stylistically, I've made that comparison to Odell Beckham Jr. So he's my number 2 receiver in this class, but my number 1 I really like. So
yeah, okay. Well, the trade, we got our first trade, so I'm trying to do this. The Jaguars trade for Broncos, and the Broncos would pick Jeudy, so that's what's going to show up. The fans are saying I missed number 8. I think I spaced out. I can't remember who you said for 8 now.
Derek Brown from
Brown. There it is. Okay. Let me fix that. Need to take a little bit of a time out because I am trying here. Okay, so that's taken care of. Let's drop out of there. All right, so I think we're all caught up. So we are on pick 10. So we're moving right along here on the draft. First of all, what's your impressions this week? Like, with it being all like a virtual draft, do you think it's going to go smooth? I mean, I know the times are different, but how do you think this is really going to play out?
You think it would be fine just because of the age that we live in. We live in where most of America is watching Hulu and Netflix as their main TV provider. And we've got smartphones and all that. But then you hear all these reports of like, the Bears GM, Ryan Pace, he had to kick they were doing the practice draft, or he's doing something. He had to kick his kids off their tablets because they were taking up too much bandwidth. And John Schneider's tearing walls out and having IT guys come in because his internet's not working right. And you see, who else was it? There was somebody that had 25 monitors, and you just hear all these things, and you see a picture of David Gettleman. He's got a laptop that looks like it's 15 years old, and like 10 huge 3-inch binders. And I don't know. I think they're going to work through a lot. I think we're going to have one of the longest first rounds we're going to have in a while, just because they're going to give more leeway on times. They said that if there's a trade being discussed and the time stops, they're hoping that people honor hey, let's just kind of work it out, and they're not going to have teams running up to get picks. And they've talked about pausing the draft at times. It'll be interesting. I'm going to be doing a live show after the draft, and in the past, those got over like at midnight or 1 o'clock. I unfortunately think I might be getting over like at 1 or 2 in the morning. So,
you think so?
I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot longer than normal drafts.
Wow. Yeah. So Thursday's
we'll
just
see.
round 1, and then Fridays 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Saturday's like the rest of everything. Correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because we're going live here on Thursday, and if we were talking midnight, 6:30 to midnight, that might be kind of tough to do.
You better pack a snack.
Alrighty. So the Browns. Oh my goodness, the Browns. What are the Browns gonna trade Beckham? Do you think, or do you think that's all like crazy talk?
I think that's all crazy talk at this point. I mean, it wouldn't shock me, but I don't think so.
Yeah. The Browns, like, they have a decent roster. If they could get something out of the quarterback, they got Conklin now as your right tackle. That should help a little bit, right? I think they're putting him at right tackle. Their defense seems pretty decent. I mean, they got good corners. Pass rushers. Can they put it together? That's the question. So who do you got them taking?
Speaking of trades, I have them trading down.
Oh, my goodness. With the Patriots, right?
With the Falcons.
Oh, okay.
The Atlanta Falcons are the team that we've had the most smoke about them moving up. There's just talk left and right. And a lot of people, I remember a few years ago, they traded up and they got very aggressive moving up to get Julio Jones. And since then, everyone's just like, their general manager just loves to trade up. And then they haven't really done it since then. And so that's a lot of people are like, hey, that's all smoke. Don't read anything into it. There's been so many people that are reporting it that to me, it seems likely they have a big need at cornerback. And so you have Jeffrey Okudah at number 1. You have CJ Henderson right behind him. And then I think there's a significant drop off between Henderson and the third guy that I think teams are going to be aggressive. There's a lot of talk that CJ Henderson could be a top 10 pick. So I think teams that want him are going to have to move up. And that's what I see the Atlanta Falcons doing. I see them trading up from 16 to 10. The Browns have been reported that they want to trade down. So I have the Falcons moving up to get CJ Henderson. They need a cornerback. They let Trufant go. He signed with the Lions. That's one issue. They drafted Isaiah Oliver from Colorado a few years back. They've got a few other guys. They need a true number 1 corner. They brought in Dante Fowler to be their pass rusher to kind of replace the guy that you guys got, Vic Beasley.
Beasley, yeah.
And so they got him, and that makes pass rusher less of a need. And so I think corner's the true weakness on their defense, and Henderson's a guy that I've liked since day one. He's a top 10 prospect for me. So I think a team like Falcons are going to move up, and they're going to get him there.
Do you know did Trufant sign anywhere? Do you know of?
The Lions.
Oh, he did sign with the Lions. Okay, I must have missed that
The Lions signed him and then shipped Darius Slay off right away.
Gotcha. And then Logan Ryan's still out there too, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, you heard CJ Henderson, a trade where the Falcons are moving up. Man, the year of the Falcons, new uniforms. They got the running back, which took Primetime's number, which is kind of crazy. And there's been, some reports about Quinn and what he's doing, and so we'll see. But, yeah, we got to trade. The Browns moving again. They're becoming like the New England Patriots with all these draft picks. All right, so number 11, the Jets, Jets. Who are the Jets going for?
I have them going offensive line, and I have them taking Jedrick Wills, the offensive tackle of Alabama. Joe Douglas comes from the Philadelphia Eagles, where they draft offensive and defensive linemen in the first round. The Jets, they brought in a lot of interior guys, Connor McGovern, and Alex Lewis, and I think they brought in George Fant at tackle, but they need help, and I don't think any of those moves are going to prevent them from taking one of these elite guys. I think if any of those four fall to them, they're going to be excited. Wills is my top-rated offensive lineman. He's a top 10 pick for me. He's a right tackle. He's actually played right tackle his entire career, and it's crazy because he's so athletic and so physically tough. And that you think, gosh, this guy played left tackle in high school. Nope, he was a right tackle. He goes to Alabama, starts at right tackle for 2 years for them, and so he was my favorite guy to watch out of all the linemen. I think he'll come in day one, be the Jets starter at right tackle. Le'Veon Bell's got to be excited. Sam Darnold's got to be excited. Now, if they can just get weapons on day two.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Jets, they beat the Steelers. I mean, they helped us out. I know the Steelers were let's be honest. The Steelers should have beat the Jets. To try to get in the playoffs, they had to win like one game to get in. That opened the door for us. But, their defense seems pretty sound. I mean, they got maybe Bell will have a little bit of a bounce back. But, yeah, fixing that line, a lot of these teams struggle because they can't fix their line. And us Titan fans know when we won 2 and 3 games in 2015 and 2014, most of the reason was because the line. So, good pick. All right, moving on. The Raiders.
I have him taking at 12 Oklahoma wide receiver CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is my number one rated receiver in this class. He's a top 5 player in this class for me. I think he's a guy. The Raiders seem like they're locked into picking a receiver. If you've heard Jerry Jeudy as a potential pick for them, just because you hear this talk of they want some explosiveness to their offense. Well, CeeDee Lamb doesn't have Jerry Jeudy speed. He doesn't have Henry Ruggs speed, but he's not, he's a 4.5 guy. He's big. He's, 6'2", 6'3". He can go up and high point the ball. He's got the character. He checks out character-wise. That's a big Mike Mayock thing. He wants guys from successful programs that have good character, football character, off-the-field character. And I think the reports out there is that Mayock loves CeeDee Lamb. Gruden would probably prefer Jeudy. In this case, Judy's already gone. But I think CeeDee Lamb's probably going to be their pick and gives them a true number one receiver and allows Tyrell Williams to fall back into a complementary role. And you got Hunter Renfrow out of the slot. You got Waller at tight end. And now their weapons for Derek Carr look a lot better.
Yeah. Do you think they're really 100% in on Carr? Or what are you hearing from that angle?
There's always this talk that they want to go, that Gruden wants to draft a quarterback. He's always gone veterans. You look at when he was with Oakland, he had his best success with Rich Gannon. He goes to the Buccaneers, and they had Brad Johnson, and they had their success with him and another guy I can't think of. And I know I think Josh Freeman was after Gruden was gone. He's always had veterans, and Derek Carr, he almost won an MVP one year, and he got hurt into the playoffs, and then their weapons got worse, and Amari Cooper fell off the face of the earth, and I think everyone around him got worse, and that kind of highlighted some of his deficiencies. Whereas not too long ago, he looked like one of the next good quarterbacks in the NFL.
What's interesting? You bring that up. Mariota and Carr, Christmas Eve, break their foot same day. And both of them probably had their best seasons, which is insane. So, all right, here we go. Pick number 12. Or 13.
13. San Francisco 49ers are a team to kind of keep an eye on. I think if their number one target, their dream scenario is to get Henry Ruggs here, and that's who I have them taken. Speed, elite speed. You look at Kyle Shanahan. When he was in Cleveland, he had Taylor Gabriel, small, elite speed guy. You can kind of use him in a lot of different ways. Kyle goes to the Atlanta Falcons, brings Taylor Gabriel there. They have Julio Jones. They have a few other guys, and they use Gabriel in all these different ways. He goes out to San Francisco. One of the first signings he had was Marquise Goodwin, elite, Olympic speed. And Marquise Goodwin was with the Buffalo Bills and kind of had some success here and there. And then he goes to the 49ers and actually has a pretty good year. Last year, the 49ers went out and traded for Emmanuel Sanders to give him that speed element to go opposite of kind of the more physical Deebo Samuel. Henry Ruggs is light years better than Marquise Goodwin and Taylor Gabriel, and he'd give him that over the top athletic speed, and this is that offense. They like to do boots, and they give Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of time. And imagine Jimmy Garoppolo doing a play action to the other side and rolls out, and here comes Henry Ruggs with 4.27, 4.26 speed cutting across the middle, and being their version of Tyreek Hill. And he's more than just speed. He's a solid route runner. Yeah, he's only 5'11", but he's actually got a physical kind of build to him. He's not like he's 150 pounds like John Ross was, 166 pounds, whatever it was. He's got elite speed. He can run routes, and he can do a lot for this offense.
Yeah, wow, that would give them definitely an electric element to compete, because everybody, like I said, trying to compete with the Chiefs, that would definitely put them right on par with that great defense. And people maybe forget this sometimes, but the 49ers have one of the better O-lines in the league and got a nice running game as well. All right, here we are, 32 likes. We're looking for 50. We are moving our way through this thing. We got 43 people in the house. If you guys got an opportunity, share this thing. Let's try to get to 100. Why not? I mean, what else are we doing? We are 2 days away from, Christmas is what I kind of view the draft as sometimes. And if you don't celebrate Christmas, that's okay. But my point is, it's an exciting time. You don't know what you're going to get, what kind of gifts you're going to unwrap, or if you're going to give them away like some teams will. So let's move on. Here we go.
14. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went out and got Tom Brady. They just traded a 4th-round pick for Gronk. By the way, last day of the football season last year in fantasy, I picked up Gronk and stashed him in my keeper league. So I might be collecting that check this year. But they got Gronk. They got Brady. The offense is set up. The defense was kind of growing last year. I think I know they're in win now mode. You don't bring in Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski to kind of say, oh, we'll see how the next couple of years go. So their biggest weakness is offensive tackle. And I think they're going to be aggressive to move up and get an offensive tackle. I could see them trading. The two teams that could trade back are, as the two teams that I had trade back, the Browns and the Jaguars. I could see the Buccaneers moving up and getting aggressive to get an offensive tackle. I think Andrew Thomas is a possibility, but I had Mekhi Becton from Louisville here. Massive, 6'7", 340, 350 pounds. Bruce Arians wants to do deep drops, 5, 7-step drops, get the ball downfield to Mike Evans, to Chris Godwin. And so they need someone to protect Tom Brady. Becton is a good athlete. He's got length. He's got size. It's hard to get around him on sheer size alone. And I think he's a guy that needs some developing, but in the time being, his size is going to help him out. We saw Orlando Brown have a lot of success in Baltimore initially just because of his size and athletic traits, and then he's continued to get better. I think Mekhi Becton is a better version of that, and I think if the Bucs get one of these top 4 tackles, that alone is going to make it a successful draft for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Could you see any secondary being a concern for them? Because when I look at the Bucs, I do see. I get you. You're going to want to put all your, eggs in the basket of Brady. So that makes perfect sense. I'm not trying to contradict your pick, but when I look at the Bucs defensively, they're really stout against the run. They were basically 1 or 2 all season last year against the run, but their secondary was like 31-32. Could that be a possibility? Or does Logan Ryan or someone like that? They could just bring in free agency and fill since everybody wants to really play with Brady.
Definitely. I think that's still an option. Before the Tom Brady signing, my commonly mocked pick for the Buccaneers was secondary. To me, they've invested a ton of picks in the secondary. Carlton Davis, MJ Stewart. Their second and third and fourth rounds were just littered with cornerbacks and safeties the last several years. But they don't have that true number one. And if you look at Todd Bowles, when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, they had Patrick Peterson. When he goes to the New York Giants as their head coach, the first moves they made was they signed Morris Claiborne. They signed the cornerback from that was with the Rams, Tremaine Johnson. They invested heavily in that cornerback position. I think they even brought back Darrelle Revis for a year.
Yep.
So Todd Bowles' defense thrives with a elite corner. And that's talk. There's talk out there that they could go C.J. Henderson. They could move up to get him. They could let him fall. There's talk they could go Javon Kinlaw and give him that disruptive piece next to Ndamukong Suh, next to Vita Vea. I mocked him safety a lot just because Todd Bowles, once again, if you remember his teams, when he was at the Jets, he drafted Jamal Adams for like top 5, and then he drafted the Florida safety in the second round. They went safety, and then when he was in Arizona, they had like 4 safeties on the field at all times, and so that's what I commonly did. But I think with them now, if they can have a shot at one of those 4 tackles, I think it's written in pen. And I think Andrew Thomas, I know he's still available in this mock, but I think that's the guy that they really want, just because he's plug and play, probably ready to go at left tackle more than
You've
anybody.
always been very consistent with the offensive tackles. You've said there are what? I can't even remember, 5, 6. But I remember always getting to the Titans. There wasn't going to be a whole lot of options. Maybe the guy from Houston. So
yeah, there's 4 elite, and there's probably going to be 7, maybe 8 go in the first round.
Alrighty, so we just finished the Bucks. We are on pick 15, almost 1 pick away for being halfway done. So who do we got at 15? Oh, wait a minute. The trade, right?
Trade, yes. This is the Jaguars. They traded with the Broncos.
All right, so who do you think the Jaguars, are they going to trade again?
No. They're going to take Javon Kinlaw here. The defensive tackle out of South Carolina. Javon Kinlaw has been one of the toughest prospects for me to place in this draft, just because I think he's a top 10 player, but because of the tackles, because of the receivers, because of the quarterbacks, he just keeps falling down. And someone in the teens is going to get Javon Kinlaw, and they're going to be ecstatic. In this case, I had the Jaguars doing it. You know, here's a team. They just traded away Calais Campbell. Marcel Darius was with them. They cut him as a cap casualty. They need someone at defensive tackle. I know they drafted Taven Bryan from Florida a few years ago, but Javon Kinlaw is a guy. I think he's similar to Calais Campbell. You can kind of move him around a bit. He's athletic. He's disruptive. He's strong at the point of attack. I actually have him ranked higher than Derek Brown. I know some people think I'm crazy for that, but he's a better disruptor. He's a better pass rusher. He's got higher upside, in my opinion. So I think if he's picked in the teens, some team is getting an absolute steal.
So that Georgia game, is this one of the guys that pretty much disrupted Georgia for basically derailing their title run?
Yeah, he was the best defensive player for South Carolina by a mile.
Okay.
And there's games South Carolina lined him up a lot of times like in that one technique, so off the shading the center, and I didn't like that because I felt like it made it easier for teams to double and sometimes triple team him. He got a lot of triple teams. You'd see center and both guards swarm onto him. I think you kind of slide him out maybe to that 3 technique, and you have to go one-on-one with the guard. And I think that's where he thrives.
All righty. So now, how do we see a defensive tackle go off? It seems like the Jaguars always pick defensive tackles. He was a white guy. I can't remember. He was a defensive. They took him in the second round. Was it last year? Then maybe the round.
They took Taven Bryan from Florida a couple years ago.
Is. Okay.
Sure.
Yep. All righty. I haven't really noticed him too much, but
no.
Maybe, yeah. All right, so now we have another trade, right? So Now we have the Falcons that moved up, and now the Browns. Are they trading again?
Yes. No. They're going to take offensive tackle. Now, I have them taking on Andrew Thomas here, and there's been some reports out there that they really do like Andrew Thomas, but the guy, and that's who I have them taking. They're taking Andrew Thomas. They need left tackle. We talked about the Browns a little bit at pick 10. They've got they got elite receivers. They've got elite running backs. They've got some pieces along that offensive line. The big question is left tackle's a big hole, and the quarterback. Well, you need to kind of get Baker protected. And Kevin Stefanski's coming in from the Vikings, and if you remember their offense last year with Kirk Cousins, who has some issues, they were a run-first team. And when they had Dalvin Cook and they were run, and then play action, that's when they had their best success. So I think that's going to be the game plan with Baker Mayfield. So Stefanski he's a zone blocking scheme. He wants guys that are athletic, that can block. Andrew Thomas fits in with that. They're going to run behind Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and then Baker Mayfield's going to pull off on play action. And he's got Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and all those guys to throw to, Austin Hooper. I say that. Don't be surprised if they trade back and Andrew Thomas is gone. Those top 4 guys are gone. Remember the name Ezra Cleveland to the Cleveland Browns. Boise State, one of the best testers at the combine. I actually have. He's my 5th rated corner, or 5th rated tackle. I have him tied with Andrew Thomas. I almost like him a little bit better. I think that's the guy that. Everywhere I've heard from, whether Peter King, Albert Breer, Matt Miller, all these guys that have connections, they've mentioned that they really like Ezra Cleveland. So I don't have him going here, but if they trade back, it just so happened that Andrew Thomas fell here. But if he's not there, I think they go Ezra Cleveland.
It's got to be Cleveland. Come on. If they have a chance to take Cleveland for the name, they're taking him. Maybe not.
Well, he'll have Cleveland on the back of his jersey, and if you you have those teams that put their team name on the back, and it'll kind of look like that.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, speaking of Cleveland, every time I see Cleveland on the draft, I can't help myself. Draft day. If you had to give it a grade, what would you give draft day?
I've never seen it.
You've never seen draft day? That's like a tradition.
The movies that I watch are like Trolls, and it's all those kids movies with my kids. I don't watch a ton of movies. I've just heard nothing but bad things about it, so I've just never. I don't watch a whole lot of sport. I watched, of course, the classics, but I don't know. One of these days when I'm finally caught up on my Netflix or whatever,
you're not
put
gonna
it on.
Find it on Netflix, Brian, because it's not that bad of a movie. And I'll tell you, I'll watch it every night before the draft. That's my thing. So tomorrow night I'm watching draft day. It's just what I do. The only thing I wish about that movie is it was about the Titans. But otherwise, I thought it was a very, very good movie. And you're right. There are a lot of people that hate it. They didn't think it was very good. But definitely, you might want to check that out. Maybe even tomorrow if you have time. I know you're a busy guy. Now, before we move on, we got our first super chat. So we got this from, who we got? Jameson. Basically says, asking in what round who will go first for GBR. So I'm confused. Who's GBR?
Go Big Red.
Is that what it is?
Huskers.
Is he going in the first round? I'm throwing off, Jameson. I'm sorry, man, but thank you for the super chat.
If I'm reading between the lines, GBR is a common hashtag for the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Oh, okay.
GBR, Go Big Red. So that's what I'm assuming. So I'm going to give that take, and if I'm wrong, then we'll give the take on what it was.
There we go. He explains it.
Say what?
There he goes. Yep, you're right. Good call.
All right.
Forgot you're from Nebraska.
So for a while, I would say Lamar Jackson. He's cornerback, typical press man corner, 6'2", tall, physical, good athlete. But then he goes to the Senior Bowl, and he really struggled. And so that kind of pushes him down. And then you had the Davis twins. Nebraska had two twin brothers on the defensive line, and Nebraska plays a 3-4 defense, so they're the two defensive ends. I think they're a little miscast in the 3-4. They're guys that are more athletic and penetrating. Carlos and Khalil. I think Khalil's the better prospect of the two. They both go to the combine, and they blew up. They had some of the best testing numbers at the combine. I have a feeling corners we always have so many corners get drafted. I mean, there's always Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Network. I heard the stat. He looked at the averages over the last 10 years, and there's at least 15 corners that go in the first 3 rounds. If you do the averages, so I think based off that alone, Lamar Jackson, if to press man team, a team that wants a more physical guys that press cover 3 type teams, I think he goes first. But if Khalil Davis got picked before him, it wouldn't shock me. I think Darian Daniels is a guy. He's their nose tackle. I think he's probably might get drafted. But I think the Davis twins definitely get drafted based off their athletic ability alone.
Well, thank you for saving me. But, I mean, honestly, I'm not going to lie and act like I know what that was. That caught me off guard, so good save there and good explanation. I just remember I'm a big Illinois fan, and Illinois-Nebraska game this year was nuts. It was just insane in Champaign. Yeah, I don't remember any of those guys, I'll be honest with you. But that's why you're here. You're the draft guy. I'm just Titan guy. So we have made it to the Cowboys. Wow. They got a franchise tag in Prescott. I'm not even sure if he's going to play or not.
We will.
What are the Cowboys going to do? They just lost Jones.
I think secondary is where they're going to go. There's a lot of talk that they could go just because you've got Dak Prescott to kind of load up. You know, Mike McCarthy's coming in. You remember him in Green Bay. They passed a lot. He didn't really run the ball. You know, people in the fantasy community were like, give the ball to Aaron Jones. And then he leaves and Matt LaFleur starts giving Aaron Jones the ball, and he's having all this success. So there's talk that they could go receiver. And this isn't the pick, but Justin Jefferson is available. He'd be a good slot corner. You pair him up with Cooper and Michael Gallup, and you got him in the slot, and you go from there. But I just think they're going to go secondary. You lost Byron Jones. I know they drafted Chidobe Awuzie. They drafted another corner from Michigan. His last name's escaping me. I think safety or corner, Xavier McKinney from Alabama would give them a Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, similar to what Mike Nolan had with the Saints last year. But I think they go, long story short, A.J. Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson. Here's a guy who I really like. And I know a lot of people, especially after the national championship game where Jamar Chase kind of got him for a couple big catches, people were like, oh, this guy's trash. But he was there. I mean, Jamar Chase is going to be the number 1 receiver in next year's draft, easily. And A.J. Terrell was in a position to make plays. And so he's tall, he's fast, he's physical. You know, you put tape on him. I remember watching the first tape I watched him was Duke, and those poor Duke receivers, he's just kind of like just rerouting them and pushing them out of bounds. And I really like him. There's a lot of talk he's going to be a top 20 pick. I think Dallas, the Raiders, the Jaguars, one of those 3 teams is going to take him here. In this case, I have the Cowboys.
All righty. Good explanation. I was hoping the Titans would get a nice cornerback, and now we've got a couple off the board, so here we go. Moving on, the Dolphins are back on the clock. What is Miami? First of all, who won the trade? So you had a first-round pick, correct, from Pittsburgh for Fitzpatrick? Who do you think won that trade?
I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick, when he was with the Dolphins, I mean, he was good. Don't get me wrong. But when he got traded to the Steelers, he just thrived. And I think Minka Fitzpatrick was one of like my top 5 players last year. And I thought he could play corner, he could play slot, he could play outside corner, slot, or safety. And I think he thrives on a good defense. I think his skill set gets magnified when he's around other good players. The Dolphins didn't have a lot of good players on their defense, so I think his value got diminished. That's why they were kind of willing to kind of part with him. So, I mean, obviously it'd be nice to have because you're going to have to replace him anyway. But I think the Steelers probably got the best out of that trade.
Always wonder who wins these trades, you know what I mean? And now that you see it. So, who are the Dolphins taking?
I haven't taken an offensive tackle. I haven't taken Austin Jackson, the left tackle out of USC. I'm not as high on him. I actually went back and I rewatched it because I was significantly lower than most people, and I hadn't done a ton of film study on him. So this morning I went and I put on some more tape of him, and I kind of started to appreciate a little bit more. Obviously the more tape you watch, guys, the better feel for you get. And he's a good athlete. He's just got some deficiency. His hand placement, his punch is not always the greatest. I watched him against Iowa and AJ Epinesa, and he got beat a few times, but a lot of times he got beat with his hands, but then he was able to kind of move with his feet. So I think he's an ultra athlete. He's still super young. I think his future's ahead of him. The Dolphins have been a team that have rumored to really like him. I think they make him their pick with the 18th pick. I heard back before even the combine, people saying, hey, he's going to be a top 20 pick just because of his age, his athleticism, and his potential. And so I think the Dolphins, they got their quarterback, they got their left tackle, they're going to kind of work them in together.
Wow, the Dolphins, scary. And they beat the Patriots in the year. I mean, they're not terrible. So, and now that division's wide open. So watch out for the Dolphins. Maybe catch the Bills here. All right, moving on. We are on pick 20, right? We're on 20?
19.
Oh, 19. Sorry. They're kind of blending together now. So we're about 10 picks away from the Tennessee Titans. So those of you in the house, definitely hit that like button. We're at 35, looking for 50. And our watch party is now up to, we went down one. So we're at 45, but we're still doing well.
I turned someone off with that last pick.
Or they saw their pick and they're like, hey, we're done. How many of you do that, right? Like, how many of you guys, if the Titans pick 10, pick happens at 10, then you're out. You're done. You're like, hey, we're not in the first round. We don't think we're trading in. So I watched the entire draft. I'm not even going to ask you because I know you do. So, but I just, it's drama before our very eyes. It's always fun. And this year, you never know what's going to happen with the virtual draft. So here we are. We are on pick 19. The Dolphins just basically went, like you said, and took Jackson from USC. Now the Raiders are back on the clock from the Chicago Bears. Is that trade done now? Like, are the Bears finally paid up to this point?
Yeah. After this year, the Bears will have another first round. They'll have their first round picks back next year. So the Bears gave up this 19th pick, but they did get the Raiders' second round pick. So the Bears have 2 second round picks.
Okay.
But yep, after this, it's all done, and Bears will be back to having first round picks again.
I can see the Bears trading it next year. The Bears don't care about picks; they just trade them. You know, the defense is good; it's pretty solid. They've traded for Foles. I mean, they picks for the Bears. It just doesn't. They don't care. So look out for that.
Well, they might need a quarterback next year, so who knows?
We'll trade for that too. All right, here we go. So the Raiders are on the clock. They took Judy earlier. Who are they taking now?
I have them taking Oklahoma linebacker Kenneth Murray, and I know there's a knock against Big 12 defenders. Murray's a guy that he was a 4-year starter for Oklahoma. And you may say, oh, well, it's Oklahoma's defense. I mean, my grandma could start for them. Well, he was a highly rated player, comes in, starts 4 years. He's a guy that's very physical. And he can go sideline to sideline, but I think his strongest suit is going tackle to tackle. He's got speed to do that. He's very physical, and I think he's going to be a guy that just wins people over. There's reports out there that he had some of the best interviews. I've heard people describe him as a future Walter Payton Man of the Year. So I think that combination, his physicality. John Gruden loves toughness, or not John Gruden. Mike Mayock loves toughness, and they signed Nick Kwiatkowski from the Bears as an inside linebacker. They signed, I think, Corey Littleton from the Rams as a linebacker. They could use one more guy, bring in Kenneth Murray. Linebacker's been a big need since Gruden took over there. Get a guy to kind of be your defensive leader over the next, hopefully 10 years for them, and really kind of help start building up this defense. I can't hear you anymore.
Now we're moving on to the Jaguars at 20. So we went Raiders early, we went offense, then they went defense, and now we move on to the Jaguars. They kind of wanted just to mute them, but whatever. They're part of the NFL. We'll talk about them. So who are the Jaguars? They took defensive tackle earlier, correct?
Yes, I had them taking Javon Kinlaw. So at pick 20, I have them taking a receiver. I have them taking Justin Jefferson. You look at, they got Jay Gruden come in and be their offensive coordinator. They've got DJ Chark is kind of a deep threat. They've got a couple. Their receivers were built off of the play action. Their whole mantra was, we're going to pound the rock with Leonard Floyd and then get speed guys to take shots down the field off of play action. Well, they're getting more of a West Coast offense. So Justin Jefferson from LSU just blew up this year, goes to the combine, has another good combine, route runner, explosive at the stem. He's got good size. He can go up and get the ball. So I think he kind of comes in at their slot. They got Chark on one side, D.D. Westbrook on the other side, and just giving Gardner Minshew, who they're gonna give a shot, but once again, I think they're gonna tank for Trevor Lawrence, and just give them more weapons at that receiver position.
Minshew, it's not. No way. It pains me to say that too because they beat the Titans on Thursday Night Football, but nobody usually on the road comes in on Thursday Night Football and usually plays well. But my goodness, Minshew mania. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it for a second. All right, here we go. We have moved on to 21, and we're on the home stretch here. So here we go, 21. Let's get Jefferson off the screen so I don't mess that up. And now we're ready to go. Who you got for 21?
Now, every single mock out there has the Philadelphia Eagles taking a wide receiver. And I've had Justin Jefferson mocked there for a while. Well, I just had Justin Jefferson gone. And this is another pick that I just have a gut feeling. I have a feeling that they could take Cesar Ruiz, the center from Michigan. If you look back to last year, they took Andre Dillard at left tackle. They didn't need a left tackle because they had Jason Peters at left tackle. They had Wayne Johnson at right tackle. They had Big V, who kind of flip-flopped as kind of the swing tackle. But they took Andre Dillard knowing that, hey, there's going to be a guy that we sit, and then he becomes a starter year 2. Jason Kelce, their starting center, is kind of on the downside of his career. It's not a deep interior class. A guy like Ruiz seems to be the consensus top interior lineman. There's talk that the Broncos really like him. There's talk that the Cowboys really like him. The Eagles, maybe they want to move back. Maybe a team trades up for Jordan Love. Maybe a team trades up for somebody. And they can move back and they get Ruiz, get him away from their division rival, the Cowboys, who just lost their starting center. This just seems like an Eagles type of pick.
Yeah. I don't really heard too much about him in particular, but centers are a very important part of the offense. It's not a sexy pick by any means, but it's, your line is very, very important. Keeps your quarterback, keeps your offense in flow. So, all right. So there we go. Like I said, center out of Michigan, off the board. We're in the home stretch. So Eagles done at 21. So 22. Who we got going at 22?
Minnesota Vikings. This is one of the teams that we didn't mention that has 2 first-round picks.
Oh.
This is their first one, and I have them taking TCU defensive tackle Ross Blacklock. And Blacklock's a guy that you don't hear any. Like, I am scouring the internet for all the rumors and speculation and all these inside sources that I can find, and you don't hear a single thing about Ross Blacklock. And maybe that means he's not going to be a first-round pick. But then you listen to people like Greg Cosell and Daniel Jeremiah, guys that I truly respect in their ability to evaluate talent. And I see a lot of the same things that they do. And this is a guy that can be an interior pass rusher. He's got the strength at the point of attack. He's got the quickness and the lateral agility to penetrate. And that's a big deal in the NFL nowadays because you want to get that pressure up the middle because the ball comes out so fast. And I think I have a first-round grade on him. I've heard other people that they're really good at this that have a first-round grade on him. And I think he goes in the first round. I think Minnesota's a landing spot just because they let Linval Joseph go. They had one of those old Jets defensive linemen. It wasn't Sheldon Richardson. It was someone else. It was whatever. But they need defensive tackles. And I think you've got Javon Kinlaw, you've got Derek Brown, and then there's a drop-off, and it's Ross Blacklock, and you've got a few other guys, but I think Blacklock's clearly the next best. So I think a team like the Vikings, who could use a defensive tackle, they go that route right here.
Okay, the Vikings. You actually talked about this guy. I remember you on the show last time, and then you had a mock at some point, right? How many mocks, really quick, before I ask you this, that you typically do during a year? Like how many, and when do you start doing mocks?
I cheat a little bit because I don't do my first mock until right before the season starts because I used to do it right after the draft and be like, oh, here's next year. And then I'd have some guy in the first round that like goes undrafted just because he's a popular name. So we have other people at the site that do that. I stay far away from that. I try to get at least 100 or so guys in so I get a good idea of who I think are the best players. So mine usually come out in August.
Okay.
I have a Google Doc that saves all my mocks, and I have, let's just real quick, 64 pages of, but that includes write-ups and that too. I've probably done 15 to 20 mocks.
Wow. Are you sick of mocks by now, or?
There's a lot of people, I listen to podcasts, and you hear Kuiper and McShay and Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks. I just listen to those because to me, mock drafts is not, I've never done a mock draft of this is what I would do, just because that's not what, I'm not picking these teams. So I always wanted, what am I hearing? So I try to listen to what other people's mocks are just to kind of get a gauge, because I want to have the most accurate mock draft on my final one. And people hate them. They're like, oh, mock drafts, but the fans love them because that's what got me into the draft. Because and writing about it was, oh, who is my favorite team going to be drafted? And so I'd go search 5 or 6 mock drafts, and I think that's what fans like. I put out a podcast of the mock draft. I got thousands of people that listen to it. I put out a podcast, me talking about something else. I only get several hundred. Yeah. So our mock drafts do the best traffic on our site. So fans love them, and to me that's the best part of the draft, is seeing where these guys are going to go. So yeah. I do like.
For me, it's always like wherever you see your team, and wherever that mock falls, and who you draft. It's like, oh yeah, man, like great pick, and then it changes the next week. But you did have was it Blacklock from TCU? You actually had him in it. How many mock drafts would you say you had him going to the Titans?
Just one. And one thing I like to do, a lot of my mocks leading up to the draft and throughout the whole process, is I like to not get in the habit of putting the same player onto the same team. Because if I put Ross Blacklock to the Titans for the 4 straight mocks, you're going to stop coming and looking at him, because
that's true.
And I don't do that just to get the clicks, per se, but it's not always a guarantee, because I may say, oh, hey, they're going to take Ross Blacklock, it fits, but maybe Ross Blacklock goes early. So I just always try to put different scenarios and different things, like Isaiah Simmons 4 to the Giants. I never thought that was going to happen, and watch it does.
Yeah.
But I did a couple mocks with him there just because I wanted to see what it would look like.
Yeah. Well, there you guys heard it. Brian is giving you a little honesty tonight, saying he does not like to put the same guy on the same team in the same mock all the time. So where can they find you, Brian? I think you're draft_Brian on YouTube, correct?
Yeah, my YouTube channel, my Instagram, which I barely use anymore, and Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. It's draft_Brian. I got a Patreon account, so that's draft_Brian as well. I kind of look to expand that this summer and kind of provide more content there, but that's kind of the brand, draft_Brian. You can find my writing at NFLDraftGeek.com. But if you go to the Twitter account, I promote my articles and stuff on there. So that's the good place to go, and then you can see all the stuff there.
Nice. I just put it under. I don't know if you can see it, but I just put it underneath the other. So all right, we're moving on. Blacklock went last, right, from TCU?
Yes.
So now we are moving on to pick 23.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Patriots. Ooh.
Patriots.
Quarterback. They're going love, aren't they? Go ahead. Give it to us.
I don't think so. They're a team. I could see them adding another veteran. It seems like McDaniels really does like Stidham. And Stidham was a guy that I thought had a lot of potential. And he was a guy that I kind of was like, Patriots seemed like a lot of people were like, oh, Stidham to the Patriots was a lock last year. It ended up happening. I think they like him, and he played well in the preseason. So I think they feel comfortable with him. They have Brian Hoyer. And that's the thing about this whole situation. A team like the Patriots still want to contend for a Super Bowl. And with this potentially not having rookie OTAs, and what are we going to have for a training camp? I think a team like the Patriots might say, we're not going to have a rookie quarterback come in here and start right away. So why don't we just kind of pass on a quarterback, go with the guys that already know our system, and just kind of look, and maybe they go quarterback down the road. But who knows? Maybe they won't have a bad season, but maybe they trade for Trevor Lawrence next year. But I have them taking Cole Kmet the tight end out of Notre Dame. He's actually my second rated tight end. I like Adam Troutman, the tight end out of Dayton, better. I think he has more upside. But I think Kmet is a guy that is going to be the first tight end taken. I think the Patriots are so tough this year. There's nothing coming out about them, and that's pretty typical for them. But in most years, you can kind of gauge who they're going to go with. This year, it's just on lockdown. And I think Kmet's a guy, they don't have tight ends there. It's been a weak point since Gronk left. I said when Gronk retired, it was going to take multiple players to replace him. You weren't going to draft a tight end and say, there's our Gronk replacement. You were going to draft, and last year they drafted N'Keal Harry in the first round, a guy that I really liked. And I felt they drafted N'Keal Harry to be their contested catcher. That's what they had in Gronk, a guy that could go up and win those 50-50 balls. Kmet's a guy that I think they could go at tight end. They tried to get Hayden Hurst, and they lost out on that trade. So I think Kmet's a guy that's kind of a more well-rounded tight end. You can put him on the edge to be a good blocker. A lot of people forget that Gronk was an elite blocker too. He wasn't just a pass catcher. He could block with the best of them. So I think Kmet kind of gives him that blocking role, more that the middle type guy. I would not be shocked if Kmet didn't get drafted in the first round. It's just I think he could, and the Patriots would be the team that would.
All righty. So Patriots not going quarterback according to Brian. So we'll just have to see if they maybe trade into the end to pick up at pick number 29 maybe. My favorite cornerback is still out there from Utah. We'll see. The suspense is killing me because that's my pick right now that Brian's going to pick. Brian, you could tell them, I have no idea. All I know is Brian basically gave me some guys that he had possibility in his first round. I have no idea who the Titans are picking under his mock. So I'm just as anxious as you guys are. And if you are from another team, kind of checking out the channel, we are moving through this thing. I'm trying to update the bottom the best I can, but Brian is definitely bringing it to it today, as we are a couple days away from the NFL Draft 2020. All right, so we're moving on to pick number 24 down in New Orleans. What's going on in New Orleans?
Here's another team that they don't have a whole lot of needs. If you look at the New Orleans Saints, you're like, linebackers in need, so Patrick Queen could possibly be a potential spot right here. They kind of filled that receiver spot with Emmanuel Sanders. I still think they could go receiver. Jalen Reagor from TCU is a possibility. Linebacker's a possibility. In this situation, I have them going quarterback, and I have them going Jordan Love. And I think it's possible that Jordan Love does fall out of the first round. My video that you talked about from a couple days ago, I had a person ask me, is it possible that only two quarterbacks get drafted in the first round, that Tua and Jordan Love fall out of the first round? And I said, hey, I don't think it's going to happen, but it very well could be. Jordan Love is a guy that I honestly think could fall out just because there's a lot of hype on him and a lot of love for Love, but he's got some flaws, and there's not a lot of buzz about him, I don't think, going right now. The big rumor is that the Dolphins will take a tackle and then try to get him with one of their other first-round picks. But the Saints are a team that has been rumored that if they're not going to trade up for a quarterback, but if one of them falls to them, they would make that pick. And that's what I had in this situation. Teddy Bridgewater was their quarterback last year. He's in Carolina now. So that leaves Drew Brees, who nearly retired this year, and Taysom Hill. And I know they really like Taysom Hill. They put a first-round tender on him. But I still think they view Taysom Hill as that Swiss Army knife.
Yes.
If they felt that Taysom Hill was going to be their future franchise quarterback last year, he would have played a more prominent role at quarterback when Brees was hurt. But no, it was Teddy Bridgewater that saw all that action. So I think Jordan Love I would equate this, not that he's going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, but I'd equate this to what the Chiefs did with Patrick Mahomes, where they didn't need their quarterback to step in right away. You've got a guy that's got all the talent in the world, but needs to sit and develop. I like Jordan Love, but he's got two major issues. He doesn't see underneath defenders. He threw 17 interceptions this past year, and you can blame that on the coaching staff. You can blame it on poor receivers, but he threw interceptions to linebackers that didn't even move too many times. His deep balls, yes, he's got a strong arm, but a lot of his deep balls he had no accuracy to them. You put way too much air under them. You can't do that in the NFL. I think if he goes to a team like the Saints where he could sit a year and then come in that next year and be the starter, he has a chance to be very good. But if he has to come in and start day one, he could be a guy that washes out of the league pretty soon.
Is this something where you might see, because I'm not sure where Love's going to fall. It makes sense to pick him at 24. But we've also heard rumors lately about the Chiefs trying to trade up to get a receiver. Is there a decent receiver right now that would fit the Chiefs where they possibly could move up to this spot? And does it make sense?
Denzel Mims, I really like out of Baylor. He's a big, fast, tall guy. He's a little bit raw in his route running ability, but I think you can kind of like what the Seahawks did with DK Metcalf. You put him in and say, this is what you're doing. You're just using your size and your speed, and you're running go routes all game long or slants. And I think Denzel Mims, a guy that's got a high ceiling. Jalen Reagor's from TCU, kind of that space type guy. He doesn't have Ruggs' type speed, but he's a smaller, speed and athleticism. Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, I don't think he's going to go this high. But, I mean, for all the depth and all the great things that you hear about this receiver class, you have basically, I think, CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy are the guys that I think have high potential to be number one. And then it's a lot of, like, number two guys.
Yeah.
Justin Jefferson's good, but he's never going to be a team's number one. Denzel Mims, I think, has potential. But then you got, like, Henry Ruggs. As good as he can be, he's probably more, a number two type guy. There's a lot of these guys. Michael Pittman I really like out of USC. He's another guy that's, I like a lot, but he's a number two, number three receiver. So I think you got a lot of those guys there, but not a lot of those. You don't have a lot of DeAndre Hopkins or Julio Jones, those type of guys.
All right, so the Vikings are back on the clock. Man, this seems like a trade. Is it a trade?
No. They're going to go cornerback. They're going to go cornerback. One of these two picks, because we have a few certainties in life. We have death, we have taxes, and we have Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman taking a cornerback in the first round. I mean, you think about it. They took Xavier Rhodes. They've taken Trey Waynes. They've taken Mike Hughes. Zimmer, when he was with the Bengals, they took Leon Hall. They took Darqueze Dennard. He loves his cornerbacks in the first round. Now, I did this mock this weekend, and I had him taking Christian Fulton out of LSU. And I'm not a big Christian Fulton guy. I actually have him. I think he's like my 10th rated corner in this draft. But you just kept hearing him placed there. He's not going to be, all transparency, he's not going to be in my final mock in the first round. But I think he fits well with what the Vikings want to do. So that's my pick here. But keep an eye on the guy that you keep mentioning, Jalen Johnson from Utah. That's who I think the Vikings are going to take.
Oh, no. So, you meant the Titans were going to take Johnson at 29.
There's talk that the Raiders really like him. There's talk that the Seahawks really like him. So I think there's too many teams ahead of your Titans that like him that he's not going to go.
Well, J-Rob's not afraid to move up. He did that with Evans. He moved back up to get Landry in the same draft, and he kind of didn't really get anybody else for the most part. But, man, what was his 40 time again? Was it like a 4.29?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I think the fans in the house, I'm not sure if they're here today viewing this. We're up to 60, by the way. I mean, we're just going up here because they're tuning in because they want to see who the Titans are picking at 29. But yeah, that would be mine. So I know you got the whole draft, and you're going to be a very busy guy for this, and then you got your going right on after the draft, I believe, right? So you could be on at like midnight, possibly. But be thinking of me if we take Johnson. All right.
Okay.
So, here we go. All right, we're moving on to pick 26, right? Or no?
Yes.
26. Okay.
Miami Dolphins, their third first-round pick, and I can't even remember the last. I mean, I think the Vikings a few years back, they had 3 first-round picks, but they also traded up to get their second first-round pick or their third one. So this is very rare. And someone will probably say, "Oh no, this team did it last year, or the year before." So, And this is the toughest. Like, to me, and I was exchanging texts with one of our other writers today, and I was like, I cannot figure out who the Dolphins are going to pick at 26 because I know they're going to take a quarterback at 5. I know they're going to take Austin Jackson. I don't know who they're going to take because cornerback seems like a logical spot, but they have Xavier and Howard and Byron Jones. So they take a lot. I mean, Patrick Queen could be a possibility. I ended up going a running back, and this goes against what I feel. And I went DeAndre Swift, and I'm a person that's not big on running backs in the first round. I'm like, I always feel, and it's not that I devalue the position. It's just you can always get good running backs in later rounds, and unless the guy is special, truly special, like even with Saquon, I was like, Giants, you can get somebody else, but Saquon is a stud. But I'm going DeAndre Swift. I think Swift is going to be the first running back taken. He is a guy that can kind of do it all. He's explosive. He can run a zone scheme. He can run a power scheme. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's gotten some Alvin Kamara comparisons. I'm not going to go there. But to me, the Dolphins have been rumored to take a running back. They don't have one on their roster other than Kalen Ballage, who was not very good last year. So if they're looking to say, hey, we got our quarterback, we got our left tackle, maybe they go receiver here. But I think Swift, it gives them at least a running back to kind of rely on.
All right, there goes in my second pick that I wanted. So Johnson's still available, but man, Swift gone. He's the only running back that I want. So I saw a mock the other day. I think it was Daniel Jeremiah's latest one or somebody, where they had Dobbins going in the 3rd round. Do you agree with that?
I wouldn't be shocked by that. I mean, I like J.K. Dobbins, but he's a guy that he's just a solid all-around back. He's not super, he reeled off some big long runs in the playoffs, but he's a guy that he's not an explosive guy. He's not a game breaker. He's kind of that steady Eddie, kind of tough type runner where he's got good contact balance. He can spin off tackles. He can find those cutting lanes. He's not going to be a speed guy. He's not going to be a lower the shoulder type guy. So I think because of that, because running backs tend to get pushed back, like I said, I think we probably don't get a running back taken in the 1st round, so it kind of pushes everyone back around. I wouldn't be shocked if he went in the 3rd round, but Jonathan Taylor is probably going to be, and Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift are going to be your number 1 and number 2. And then after that, it kind of just goes for kind of fit.
Okay. So here we go. Seahawks.
The Seahawks have traded back in I think it was 8 straight drafts or something.
I didn't.
So they're probably
not
not going something I could be wrong on the years, but they trade back a lot and they want to probably recoup some of their picks. And so they might not be picking in here, but Kayvon Chaison's available, and I think he has a chance of going higher. I mean, Atlanta could take him if they stay put at 16. The Cowboys could take him. There's some teams out there that could take him. But I think if he's available and the Seahawks are picking here, it's such a good fit. They need pass rushers. Jadeveon Clowney might not be back with them next year. I know you're hoping that he's not. He's with the Titans.
Yeah.
Even if the Seahawks bring back Clowney, they need that Leo, that weak side linebacker to kind of go. Clowney's more of that base defensive end. In Seattle's offense, they get that guy. They want him out at the wide 9 and a guy that can go on a straight line and attack, and then has the agility to kind of move laterally. Cliff Averill was the perfect guy for them a few years back. And I think Chaisson can fit that. I wouldn't be shocked if he fell because he's had injury issues. He missed all of not this year, but the year before with a knee injury. He was banged up this year with, I think, a high ankle sprain. And so when he's on the field, he's a guy that looks like a top 10 pick, but injuries, I think, are going to push him back.
I remember, I don't know if the first time I ever reached out to you and you were on the show, I mean, he was one of the guys you were thinking the Titans, but we were thinking the Titans might be in around 15, 16. So, yeah. I mean, if we can get this guy, I would be pretty excited about him. So I can see why that makes a lot of sense for Seattle to take him at 27.
Yeah.
All right, so 28. We're one pick away, Titan fans. So we're not at 50 likes. Brian has told me that he is not picking the Titans pick. He'll skip right over it, or he'll trade it out if he needs to. If we don't have 50 likes, so
that's going to be the last thing we're going to say that pick and then sign off, right?
Yeah.
We'll take all the questions.
All right, so let's clear the board. We're almost there. I apologize for keeping you so late. I just looked at the clock. 10:30 already. All right, here we go. It's 11, or no, it's only 9:30 your time, right? Or are you Central Time?
We're Central. It's 10:30.
Oh, okay.
All right. So Baltimore Ravens at 28. I think they're going to go linebacker. I think they'd love to get Kenneth Murray. I think they've got a shot to get him. There's some talk that they can move up. If they don't get Kenneth Murray, I think a guy like Patrick Queen, who I have them taken here, would be a strong possibility. The word out there is that they want a middle of the field defender. So that could mean linebacker, inside linebacker. That could mean a safety. I've mocked Jeremy Chin, the safety out of Southern Illinois, a guy that I'm a big fan of. I've often compared him to a poor man's version of Isaiah Simmons. Grant Delpit is potentially here. They need a safety in that defense because of guys that they've kind of let go. But linebacker is a huge need. When you think of the Baltimore Ravens, you think of middle linebackers. You think of Ray Lewis. You think of Bart Scott. You think of C.J. Mosley. Once Mosley signed with the Jets, they didn't have anybody, and they haven't replenished that spot. I think Patrick Queen is a guy that really fit well there. He is a true athlete, sideline to sideline. He's only kind of been like a one-year starter just because LSU just cycles through these linebackers. Devin White was there last year. They've had Quan Alexander. They've had Deion Jones. So it's one of these guys, they come in, they shine for a year, and then they move on. So I think Queen would be a possibility. Don't rule out Jordan Brooks. I'm not a big fan of him, but he's getting a lot of first-round attention, and he is a guy that I think if you go to a team like the Ravens who want to blitz those linebackers, that's Jordan Brooks' strong suit. So if Queen's gone, if Murray's gone, don't rule out Jordan Brooks here, but I would hate that pick.
Yeah. So. All right. We're almost here, but we can't. We're stuck at 46. We can't get there. So like I said, here we go. Queen is the pick. I don't even know if I updated the board. I think I did. Yeah, I updated it. Maybe I'm just stalling on purpose. I don't know. So here we go. Titans in Truth in the house. Titans in Truth. We're trying to get him on one of the live shows. I'm sure he's doing something too. But like I said, we're going to try to get him to comment on the Titans pick. And see what he thinks, likes it, doesn't like it, excited about it. Maybe it's a trade. A lot of you think the Titans are going to trade. I've seen the comments in the house. We're going to trade. It's all coming. It just depends on where. We had Luke from A to Z Sports on the other night, and he said, it's okay to trade, but you just got to make sure you would trade. Like, you need a guy maybe top 40. Like, it's okay to trade, but if you're going to trade back to, like, pick 50 or sometimes you are doing yourself a disservice. Would you kind of agree with that? What do you think?
It kind of depends. I mean, in most drafts, like I have 20 guys with first round grades. And I think that's kind of the consensus. A lot of times you have a draft where there's, anywhere from 18 to 22 type guys that are true first one caliber. So when you get into these late 20s, you're looking at basically second round picks. And so that's why, like, I might have, you see this big disparity, like guys that get picked in late. You may be like, oh, I didn't see that guy as a first round. So, well, because I viewed him as a second rounder. Well, in essence, this is the second round. So I think if you could trade back, like you said, top 40, I think it's the sweet spot. And get, maybe you can get 2 second round picks. Maybe you get that additional third. NFL teams are built off of second and third round picks. Yes, the first round picks, those are the glamour picks. A lot of times you get your star players, but the Patriots, they create a lot of their dynasty on second round picks.
True.
So if you can get, and the Titans, as we talked one time, have had a lot of success with their second round picks. So maybe that's the sweet spot for you guys to trade back and kind of accumulate those. But Yeah, it all depends if there's guys that you think are going to be available. But the last thing you want to do is have a guy that you really want and you trade back thinking you're going to get him, and then he gets picked up like 3 picks before you or something like that.
Yeah, I know. I've stand corrected before, but before J-Rob took over, Rustin Webster, oh my goodness, you should see his second round picks. Like, do you remember Bishop Sankey? Did you have him in your mock?
I kind of liked him.
Did you like him? Man, he didn't even get another chance with another team.
No.
Man, not even XFL or AAF.
Well, maybe he was in the UFL. I had season tickets to that for a year.
All right. We're here. We're 2 away. Man, it's just like they're calling me out. They're like they're testing me. And that's okay because I love you guys. We're giving you the pick. Brian, let me play a sound. This is a big deal for us. We'll play the DJ sound. We're ready. Titans were finally here. It only took an hour and 40 minutes. Who are the Titans picking, Brian?
I feel like I'm going to announce this pick and I'm going to duck because people were throwing stuff. I have them taking Georgia offensive tackle Isaiah Wilson.
Oh.
Here's my thought process. And here's the thing. I'm looking at this draft, and Trayvon Diggs is still available. And I like Trayvon Diggs. I don't know why I don't have him being picked here. But I think he's going to get – I think he's maybe gone. I think Trayvon Diggs would be a great replacement for Logan Ryan. But when I look at here, and all I've heard, and to me this is just mocking a guy that I'm hearing picked in the first round – but it makes a lot of sense to me. Isaiah Wilson, not a sexy pick. He's only a redshirt sophomore. He's massive. He's not Mekhi Becton big, but he's right tackle for Georgia. He comes in, and you got Dennis Kelly at your right tackle. So Isaiah Wilson's got some developing to do. He's not needed to start year one, and I know that's not what you want out of your first-round picks, but we've talked about some of these offensive tackles, Ezra Cleveland, Josh Jones, who I've mocked you guys before. I don't really know. I think of the Titans. I think of that physical running game with Derrick Henry, and Josh Jones is more of a athletic finesse type blocker. Isaiah Wilson's a mauler, so I think right tackle's a need for you. He fits what you want to do, and so I think that's a pick that I'm kind of projecting. Maybe I don't like it. I don't have Isaiah Wilson rated that high, so I'm not necessarily like, hey, I love this pick. It's just something that I could see happening. So I'm sorry if you lost all your followers.
You got to check out. I put my thing there, a little message for you. You are not getting any love on this pick. I'll tell you. There's one guy. I think Sin City Titan is the only one in the house that thinks he's a really good player. But here's the thing, Brian, like as a true Titan fan, this is the stuff that kind of concerns me at times with J-Rob. Like every now and then, like you're just like, what are you thinking? And for us Titan fans, it makes a lot of sense because we trust him and it may not make sense. Like I was not very happy about Nate Davis, and that actually turned out to be a decent pick. I didn't know anything really about Kevin Byard when he took him.
I like Kevin Byard.
Every now and then we do then Austin Johnson or Kevin Dodd. But for the most part, like, even when Jonnu Smith, I mean, he is not scared to take a guy from a university that doesn't get, like, not one of your bigger ones. So this does not shock me. The only thing that shocks me, and I think a little people in the house are a little shocked about, we did pay Kelly a lot of money. I think we're paying him eight for the next 3 years. We're paying him around $8 million a year. I think it's 7 and change. But I think if you're going to pay that guy that much money, but then again, if this guy fits the scheme and he seems to be the guy down the line, you just move Kelly back to his natural spot and you bring this guy in. And like I said, you got to find eventually a replacement for Conklin. So out of your percentage, how likely would you give this one for John Robinson going forward with this? Like 5%, 15%? What do you think?
I think 50%.
50%?
I think, yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I'm not making any fans tonight. I'm sorry. My thought process is you're at the end of the first round, and I think to me the biggest needs for the Titans are right tackle, outside linebacker, and corner. And Am I off on those? I know
Corner. I
I'm
mean, we
not.
need a corner bad.
And Trayvon Diggs, and maybe when I was doing this mock, and I know I've done this before, I've had Trayvon Diggs to them. I think he'd be a good fit. So it might have been just me spacing on it. This isn't my final mock. I think that'd be a good fit. I have Trayvon Diggs a much higher prospect than Isaiah Wilson. But if I look at this, if Diggs is gone, if AJ Terrell is gone, if Jalen Johnson is gone, which all very well could happen, there's not really a guy similar, and maybe I'm thinking too narrow-minded and saying they've got to find that physical guy to replace Logan Ryan, because Jeff Gladney is available, and I love Jeff Gladney. But to me, he's too similar to a Malcolm Butler or, that type of guy. And you're seeing a lot of NFL teams, they like to have, it used to be you want different sized wide receivers. Now you're seeing teams saying, hey, we want a physical corner to go match up with the DeAndre Hopkins type guys. We need a smaller corner to match up with I'm using the Texans, for example, even though Hopkins isn't there, to match up a speedier guy to match up with a Will Fuller. Yeah. So maybe I'm too narrow-minded thinking there. And but I just say those guys are gone. I don't really see an outside linebacker. I know I've put Yetermos Gross-Matos there.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a first-round pick anymore. After I rewatched him, I don't really see a pass rusher. So to me, hearing that Isaiah Wilson is like teams like him a lot more than maybe fans do. To me, it's just I'm trying to connect dots. So
I gotcha.
I knew I came into this knowing I was going to get some heat. So
well, I will tell you, Al. I respect all these guys' opinion, but Al's kind of maybe not the sexiest pick in the world, but he thinks it makes sense. So you have a couple people on your side, but you have a heck of a lot of people that are like, no. So
I'm that guy in pro wrestling that comes in and just gets everyone to boo him, and
yeah. So now they're gonna tune out. Let's see if it changed the count.
If you're a subscriber count,
we got the 53 likes.
Count, there we go.
Yeah. All right.
We're gonna start unliking it.
Yeah. That I hope not. We're probably gonna get some thumbs down, but that's okay. We'll send them to your channel, Brian. All right. So moving on. We're almost done here. So we got pick number 30. So we got 3 left. We'll go rather quickly because I know Brian's got to go and it's getting late. And you guys are probably going to go watch Draft Day now that I mentioned it because I'm thinking about it. And going to watch Titan Anderson. He's got an episode coming on here. So what do we got going on with 30?
Green Bay Packers, our team, similar to the Philadelphia Eagles, it seems like wide receiver. And that's where I have them going. Denzel Mims, I think is just a perfect fit for what the Packers want to do. I know T. Higgins is another guy that kind of gets mentioned here. They need someone opposite of Devontae Adams. Teams were able to focus on him last year. They really kind of shut their passing game down. And so you get a guy like Denzel Mims, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit raw, but he is a guy that's got this, he ran in the 4.3s at the combine. You've kind of put him in like a Jordy Nelson type role where he's working downfield and using that speed and his size. I think that kind of opens up things for those other guys. I don't know if it's going to fit there, but to me, it's such a logical fit.
Yep. Well, the Mims pick, there has been talk about the Titans, not just picking an offensive tackle, Brian, but has been talk about them taking a wide receiver lately. But we did get a thumbs down, but somebody quickly took it away. So anyway, so there's the pick at 30. We move on to the 49ers are on the clock again. Who do you got them taking?
I have them taking Ezra Cleveland, the offensive tackle out of Boise State. To be fully transparent, I don't see them picking in the first round. They traded away their second-round pick last year for Dee Ford. They traded away their third-round pick for Emmanuel Sanders. So they picked 13 and 31, and then I don't think they picked till like maybe the fourth, maybe the fifth round. So they're going to trade back. There's talk they could trade back from 13 and 31 just to kind of gain some picks. I think they stay at 13, but I think they move back at 31. That being said, a guy like Ezra Cleveland, whether it's here at 31 or maybe in the second round, Josh Jones too, I think would be perfect fits. They've got good tackles. Joe Staley and Mike McGlinchey have been very good tackles for them. But Joe Staley's at the end of his career. They want to keep McGlinchey at right tackle. So I think a guy like Cleveland would be perfect fit in their zone blocking scheme. If he doesn't get drafted by the Browns, which I think he may do, I think he'd be just a perfect fit for what they want to do. Kyle Shanahan wants to run the ball. He only threw the ball 8 times against the Packers and won that game, and I think that's his goal. So getting a strong offensive line, running behind it, is music to his ears.
So someone just threw their phone and broke it. They're so fired up about this pick. Oh, rude boy. You're cracking me up, man. You're cracking me up. All right, so here's an interesting...
Is this worse? What's worse? Me mocking Isaiah Wilson to the Titans here, or when you had me come on to the first round of the playoffs and I was the only one that picked the Patriots to win?
Hey, well, we know how that turned out. So, we were pretty confident.
Yeah.
We were
just racing you.
Yeah. You bought in, though. Didn't you have us beating the Ravens?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't think you did. Did you have us beating the Chiefs? No. Better be careful, Brian. Better be careful. All right, here we go. So that is interesting, though, with Cleveland, because you said he may go top 15 to the Browns, and then we saw Wilson go, the Houston offensive tackle still there, right? He's been kind of mocked in this area, too. So Cleveland and some of these guys can be kind of interchangeable. Or am I wrong? Or
yeah, I like Cleveland better.
Okay,
but there are some issues. Some teams might have worry about his overall strength, and that is functional strength. So, but I think him going to a zone scheme like the Cleveland Browns have, don't rule out the Vikings taking an offensive tackle just because their left guard situation isn't very good, and they've kind of wanted to move Reef in from left tackle to guard, and so that could be a possibility as well.
All right, so we've made it. We're down to the last pick of the first round. Odds are somebody trades up, at least this pick or last, like you mentioned. So if the Super Bowl champs, sorry, I didn't want to say that really. The team that actually lost to the Titans during the season is on the clock. They have Mahomes. They have all sorts of weapons. Are they going to try to help that defense?
I think so. But I say that and watch Andy Reid. All the rumors are if Henry Ruggs starts slipping, they're going to trade up, and they want those speed receivers.
Oh, I know.
But so it wouldn't shock me. I mean, you've got Patrick Mahomes under a rookie contract. Load up on weapons. While you can. But I think they go defense. Here's another thing. I think they trade out too. I would give it like a 90% chance they trade out. Just because Andy Reid likes to do that. They did that a few years ago. They traded out of the first round and got Chris Jones in the second. That was highway robbery at the time. Jones is like a top 15 prospect for me, and they got him like at 40 or something. So I can see them trading back. Whether they pick at 32 or they pick in the second round, a guy to keep an eye on is Jeff Gladney, the cornerback out of TCU. That's who I have him taken here. Gladney's a guy – you go and you put on that game against Texas, and he followed Colin Johnson around. Now, Gladney's 5'10", 5'11", and Colin Johnson's 6'6", and Gladney battled with him, play in and play out, didn't back down, gave up catches because of his size, but then he battled with him, and by the end of the game, he was going up and winning those contested catch situations, and that just won me over. I think he's maybe best suited in the slot. The Chiefs' best defensive back last year was Kendall Fuller, who left them to go to the Redskins. So they could kind of use maybe that kind of slot guy that they can kind of move around a little bit. I think Gladney would be perfect for that.
All right, a lot of Titan fans are not happy about that pick either, Brian, because they thought you would pick Gladney to the Titans. So
I like Gladney. Don't get me wrong. As I said earlier, and part of that might have been like, hey, I'm thinking too narrow-minded and trying to get that Logan Ryan replacement.
Well, I would have picked the Utah cornerback. That's where I would have went. And he was on the board and he's still available. That's where I would have went. But like I said, with J-Rob, you never know. I think a lot of us
foreshadowing my final mock, he's going to be going to the Minnesota Vikings. So.
Okay. Still not in the Titans. You just can't do it, can you, Brian? Just cannot do it.
Yeah.
So, hey, thank you. Hey, honestly, thank you so much for spending so much time. I know that you are a busy guy. You got a lot going on. You do really good work. NFL Draft Geek, you do a lot of good work at your own channel. Seems like that's going to be taking off here. Doing live shows now. We'll be, honestly, so we'll do the draft. We'll do all that kind of stuff. I don't really care what ESPN or NFL thinks. I care what Brian thinks. So we'll go back with Brian, and who knows? Maybe I'll be in the house, right? Get that, sending you a super chat and saying, ha, the Titans didn't take this guy, or maybe, wow, you told us so. So are there any questions for Brian before we got to go? We only got about 2 more minutes and we're out. Did anybody questions? It's been a long mock draft. We did peak over 60. No one's going to
ask me how big of an idiot I am.
We did peak over 60. We did get 54 lights, so I'm a happy camper. We got Sin City saying thank you, Brian. So that's cool. Sin City was on your side the whole show.
Nice. Actually, on my live show, I had a guy asking a bunch of Titan fans, and I plugged your channel, and he's like, "Oh, that's where I heard you from." So
nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see, DeMario. I meant to get DeMario stuff in there. He sent me some but we got all day tomorrow, or I'm sorry, Thursday. NGB Talk and myself. We're going to be doing, like I said, the whole draft. But tomorrow,
I think I'm going to be on with that too for a little bit.
You're coming too, so yeah, nice, dude.
I'm not gonna. It'll be a drop in for a little bit. I gotta.
Well, if you're
gonna take care of I gotta take care of stuff before I go live, so okay, I'll probably just be in for a little bit.
If you're gonna drop in there, man, you're gonna have to drop in on Friday. Long time. So. But hey,
maybe I'll drop in after they draft Isaiah Wilson.
Yes, because they're going to want to talk to you, especially, for sure. So, but no, DeMario gave me a thing where it gives you, I don't know, do you look at this stuff? So it was a analytics thing. It's got all 32 teams, and it shows you basically on a graph what positions they are interviewing with. Do you take those things into account when you make your mock drafts?
I have in the past. It's just I used to always pay a lot of attention to private visit, like individual visit, like workouts and the combine. But this year with no pro days and all that, I kind of went cold turkey on it just because I hadn't seen a lot of it, and it was so hard to track Zoom calls because you're relying it based off of the player saying, "Oh yeah, I had a Zoom call with this team," and maybe they're not sharing it. Whereas if a guy comes in, gets flown into the team facility, you know about it. So I haven't really paid attention. So you might have to send me that link.
Okay. And then you got another one. Now you're up to 3 people that are agreeing with you. I think it's going to set in. And I am not, the more and more I think about it, I still want a corner. I'm not going to lie. I'd be okay with receiver, but I want a corner. But offensive tackle, if it's going to help Derrick Henry in the running game, I think at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with shoring up your O-line there. So,
well, and you're at an offensive tackle short. Offensive line is at a shortage. Back in the day, a guy like DeForest Buckner back in the day would have been an all-pro left tackle. But now a lot of those good athletes that would be good tackles are going to the defensive side. And so you're seeing teams. There's not a lot of tackles out there. I mentioned the Vikings taking a tackle and moving Reef inside to guard. I had a Vikings fan come at me on my YouTube channel saying, he's a solid tackle. When you have a solid tackle, you don't move on from him. So you got maybe that Isaiah Wilson they feel is a guy that's there. Maybe they don't because they say, hey, we got Dennis Kelly there. We trust him. We feel confident in him. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I'll definitely send you that link. Thanks again for joining us, and you have quite a few comments in here, not only thanking you for being here, which is awesome, but someone even called you an encyclopedia for draft.
Oh.
And you guys wonder why I have Brian on so much for the show. He totally draft. He's got it covered. So I don't think the guy gets enough credit, and just for that, I'm gonna do something nice for Brian. We're gonna go just for fun here. We'll go there. It's not going to show up very well. But we're going red. We're going big red for Brian because he is a Nebraska Cornhusker fan. I think he is anyway. He's from Nebraska. He's got to be, right?
I'm an alumni.
Okay, there you go. Ain't even an alumni. So, all righty. So where can they find you real quick? Thursday, right after the draft, right on your channel?
Yes, on my channel, I'll be there right after. I haven't decided if I'm going to go at the end. We'll see how long the draft gets going, because usually in the past, we wait till the draft is over, and then we just get our instant reaction. If the draft is just dragging on because of the time, we might hop in at the end. So I might be live when the Titans make their pick live. We'll kind of make that play that by ear. I don't want to stay up till 3 a.m.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
And do that. But yeah, I'll be on there. Draft_Brian is the YouTube channel. Go subscribe now so you get the notification that we're going live, and then turn on those notifications. Otherwise, just follow my Twitter. I'll post it out there. And I got Logan Fredrickson, one of our writers. Him and I will be there. We'll have a couple other guys drop in from the site, and so it'll be a lot of fun.
Awesome, man. We really appreciate it. Al dropping some news. Did the Titans just re-sign Ty Smith? Are you kidding me right now? 2 nights before the draft, we're gonna sign Ty Smith. Oh, I'm telling you what, it's looking like Brian's gonna be right about an offensive tackle. Look out for it. Here we go. So thanks again. Like I said, go over there, subscribe, hit that bell. That's a good point about the bell with the notifications, especially when you're live or when something breaks and you break it down, and we'll be reaching out soon. So thanks again, Brian. And you guys at home, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be on NGB Talk, like I mentioned. Apparently, Brian's going to be there as well on Thursday. And then I have some guests lined up myself. Hopefully, Brian is in there. But yeah, Friday we'll be on Titan Upload Network. Same thing with the draft, another watch party. And then there's going to be a little break for Titan Upload. He's going to take a little rest, going to hang out with the family for a little bit. My son wants to start a YouTube channel. Look out. I'm not sure how I feel about that one. But he wants Fortnite. So we'll see what happens. But we are out. Tighten up. Go Big Red. And we will see you soon. And don't forget to watch Draft Day, right? I'm headed over to Titan Anderson's channel. We'll see you soon, guys. Take care.